BookTube! Welcome back to the Babbling Bee. I am Taylor, and today I am going to do a summer reading catch-up with you. This is a recent reads video, but it is encompassing the last few months of my reading life. I have not updated you on what I've been reading consistently over the summer, so I'm just doing this in like a batch of books. I am coming to you today from my first ever purchase. I'm leaning over so you can see it, from Facebook Marketplace, which is this beautiful glider rocking chair. I have wanted a rocking chair for years now, and we just got rid of a little love seat couch that we had in our living room. We have a very tiny little living room kitchen area. Like, the main living space of our apartment is small, and the love seat that we had was just really old and worn out, taking up way too much space. We didn't want to have to move it when we move, and it needed to go. But then we had like a weird lack of seating situation. We needed a chair out here of some kind for my husband and for me to use, and for guests to use when people come over to hang out with us. So I found this little baby on Facebook Marketplace for $35, and I picked her up with the help of my brother, who has a truck, and I'm just so happy. I just feel like a little Mima in my rocking chair. She needs a little bit of TLC. She needs some wood polish. I've already given her like a cleaning, but she needs some wood polish. And then we're gonna have to figure out, I don't know how to fix the like imbalancing of the glider. Maybe there's a screw loose. I don't know. We'll take a look. But anyway, this is my like early birthday present to myself, and I'm just so pleased, and it looks, I think, right at home in our little home. So that's cheering me up today. But anyway, just as a heads up for this video, I have a number of books, like physical books, sitting here with me. Several of these books that I've been reading over the summer I have read on my Kindle, and I am not going to be able to show you a physical copy. I also don't think I have capability with my current editing software to put pictures in. I don't know. If I can figure out how to do that, I will. If not, I will have all of the books linked in the, or named rather, in the description box down below, so that you can reference all the books that I'm talking about today. I just probably am not going to be able to show you a picture of some of these, and I'm just going to hold up my Kindle repeatedly when I'm talking about Kindle books. So I have my handy dandy notebook here, and I am going all the way back to the end of May / the beginning of June with my summer reading. So I will be holding up, this is my beautiful leather-bound Hufflepuff notebook that was a gift from my brother. Shout out to my brother again in this video. And with my brother, back at like the end of May, beginning of June, I buddy read with him Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This was not part of my Jane Austen July. I just wanted to reread Pride and Prejudice, and he likes, my brother likes the 2005 Pride and Prejudice as well, because we raised him right. And yeah, I think he has read Pride and Prejudice before, but we were just buddy reading it together. Maybe it was his first time reading Pride and Prejudice. I can't remember. Had a great time chatting with him about this book at a baseball game, and we talked about Mr. Collins and Jane and Bingley and just all of the tension between Elizabeth and Darcy, and it was just great. I listened to the glorious Rosamund Pike audiobook of this for the most part. I also read a bit of it on Libby, like on my Kindle. But yeah, I mean, this is one of my favorite books of all time, and it was so fun and just a delight to read and talk about this with my brother. And then also end of May and then during June, I was reading Bookish by Lucy Mangan, which I picked up at the wonderful Rainy Day Books in Kansas City back in February of this year. And weirdly, I don't know what's wrong with me. Lucy Mangan has another book, another nonfiction book about reading, and it's called Bookworm, a memoir of childhood reading, I think is the subtitle. And I just fell off of reading that book. I got probably like 20% of the way through it. I think part of the problem was I wasn't connecting with a lot of the books that she was talking about reading in her early childhood. But I loved her like tone and her style of writing. The rest of it was probably just a Taylor problem. Just me reading too many books at once, getting distracted, and then falling off of some of the books, as I am almost often doing in my reading life. Trying to keep it real around here, and that is just a real thing that I do a lot. So, but I was just so compelled to pick this up. I had heard a few people talking about it, and this book, in this book, Lucy talks about kind of her reading life in her teenage years, and into her early adulthood. And I just had the loveliest time reading this. I find her very funny. She's very like witty and sarcastic, which I really enjoy. Even with this book, I didn't always know like some of the books that she talks about. Some of them I did, and I felt like a shared connection with her enjoyment of those books. But she also talks about a lot of books that I've never heard of and have never read, probably will never read. But she just has a wonderful way of writing about what reading is in our lives and the comfort that it brings. And, you know, this like witty kind of wry way of talking about how everything else in life is an interruption to the life of reading, including like your family and your loved ones and all of your responsibilities, because some days we just want to be left alone so that we can sit in a chair and read. I also loved the section of this book where she talks about setting up a like little shed in her backyard of the new house that they got during the pandemic, and she made it like this reading sanctuary, and it was just full of bookshelves, and she lovingly stocked them all with all of her books. She writes about culling books, like getting rid of books, and the pain and satisfaction of doing that. So yeah, this was just a delight. I had a great time with it. I need to get myself to read Bookworm at some point, which I have on my Kindle. So I'll probably go back to that someday. But for now, at least I've read one Lucy Mangan. Okay, I'm looking at my notebook. Also in June, I read Murder at Gulls Nest by Jess Kidd. This is my first Jess Kidd book. She has other literary fiction that, to me, it feels like the vibe of Diane Setterfield. And Diane Setterfield is one of my favorite authors. So I feel like I will like Jess Kidd in general. I don't read a ton of literary fiction anymore, but I do still enjoy the like Diane Setterfield, Sarah Perry wheelhouse or vibe of like, it's literary, it has elements of the Gothic or the Dickensian. The writing is just really rich and beautiful and detailed and odd. Like, I do still enjoy books like that every once in a while. This is Jess Kidd's foray into the mystery genre, and I was just, as soon as I heard the premise of this book, I was like, literally sign me up, I gotta read this. So it takes place in 1954, and the amateur sleuth in this book is Nora, who has asked to be released from her vows at the convent because one of her friends, who is a former novice of hers, is missing, and Nora is setting out to find her. Now, I say because her friend is missing, but also there is like more mystery and complexity as to why Nora has left the convent, and we don't know probably what all of the reasons are behind that. And we don't even really find that out in this book. I just loved this. The second one is out. I think it's called Murder at the Spirit Lounge, and I really want to read that one as well. It takes place in so Gull's Nest is the hotel, and it's in the town called Gore-on-Sea, which is in Kent. So it's like seaside town. She's hanging out with this assortment of odd people in this hotel. Sorry. It's a hotel. I was going to say boarding house. It's a hotel that's in a house, an old house, and the vibes are just odd. The people are odd. And Nora has this like quiet observance of people that I just loved. She's a little bit more sharp, or maybe like brittle in her personality than Miss Marple, for instance. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the oddities in this book. I would say look up trigger warnings. There are definitely a couple of upsetting things in this, but in general, I was hooked. I was riveted by the prose itself as much as by the plot and the mystery. And yeah, I'm looking forward to spending more time with Nora and seeing the future investigations that she gets up to. So that was Murder at Gull's Nest. And then finally, thank God, I successfully read The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow, which I'm very relieved that I finally gave this book its due time and attention. This was my second attempt. I attempted to read this back a few years ago when it came out, and I was not successful. I stopped reading it, gave up on it at that time, but I knew that I wanted to come back to it. I will say this was not a riveting success for me, as I know that it has been for many people. I really appreciate... my feelings about this book are so complicated, because in one sense, I really appreciate what Janice Hadlow has done in giving just such a dedicated and focused look at a Bennet sister who is often neglected, probably misunderstood. And within that, she's also talking about issues for women that are still relevant even today. Like, as much as they were relevant for women in Regency society, they are absolutely still relevant today in how we think about women and talk about women and marriage and beauty. And I appreciate that discussion so much, and that focus on Mary. I really liked how Mary was portrayed in this book. There are other things about this book that I did not love, and I think that's just inevitable with anything that is an adaptation of something that you love and care about. Like, you're probably gonna have some issues with it somewhere, and I did have my issues with this book. Mrs. Bennet is just quite brutal in this book, and as a person myself, like, that's the thing, is I feel like my criticisms of this book are also like things that are just personal issues for me, you know what I mean? So this is like, take this all with a grain of salt, as you should take any criticism that I ever make of any book on this channel. Like, this is my personal reading life and what I am personally having fun reading or not having as much fun reading. I am not attempting to make like an academically objective determination on any book. I'm just telling you what I am vibing with and having fun with, or maybe not so much. So yeah, Mrs. Bennet is a really, like, the angle that is taken on her in this book is a pretty hard and harsh one. As in, like, she is a very harsh person. And as a person who has dealt with a lot of like social anxiety, self-esteem issues, especially when I was a teenager and a younger person, like, I still deal with anxiety, social anxiety, and self-esteem stuff now, but when I was a teenager, it was much worse. And yeah, there's just a lot of scenes early on in this book where you're having to read about Mary being so criticized by her mother about what she looks like, and you know, she's in these like social situations, and when the focus is on Mary, the focus is also going to be on her sense of like shame and anxiety in these social settings. And that was just hard, guys. It was hard for me to read. And I don't know if I love the portrayal of Mrs. Bennet quite as it was done in this book. Like, I have my issues with Mrs. Bennet 100%, but it was just, it felt a little bit extreme in this adaptation to me, and I don't know if I loved that. I also struggle with the pacing in the first, like, third of this book. I just found it very slow. So I didn't love that, and I also didn't love the, like, this I struggle with as well. I don't know how I would really have resolved this, because I think there has to be some tension with, you know, Mary is becoming an Austen heroine in her own right in this book, and therefore, you know, we probably can't have a love story where there's just one person for her and it just all works out, like, seamlessly on the first try. So I understand that there should realistically be, you know, some options for her in terms of her love story and some tension between who it should be, who's the one. I just started to really find that tedious towards the end of this book as well, because I kind of just like saw what I thought was going to be the outcome, and I wanted it to just like get there, you know? So I didn't love this in the end, and I also have heard some negative or like ambiguous reviews about the TV adaptation. I was really stoked at first to read this so that I could get to the TV adaptation that has come out, and now I'm just not really feeling it. So I don't know. I'm just gonna leave the TV adaptation alone for now. I can watch it anytime. I think there's a lot of pressure when adaptations come out to watch them immediately. But I'm just kind of gonna let that one sit for a while, and I'll see if I want to watch it someday. So that was The Other Bennet Sister. I also read, I don't have this one to show you, but I read A Fine Romance by Susan Branch. I love Susan Branch. I've talked about her on my channel a lot. And I actually got this from Interlibrary Loan at my library. And I took it with me when we went to Illinois to see family, and I was just reading it that whole trip, and it was fun because some family members would like see me reading it and look at all of Susan Branch's wonderful like pictures and illustrations and be like, oh, what are you reading? And then I had to explain to them about Susan Branch, which I feel like, you know, a lot of people in my life have no idea who Susan Branch is, but I know some of you do, and I know some of you appreciate her. And I just had a glorious, glorious time reading A Fine Romance, which is it's one of the books in Susan Branch's like series of illustrated memoirs, and it's about her trip to England that she went on with her husband Joe, and it's just full of beauty. It is a visual treat and a treat for the soul, so highly recommend if you like Susan Branch. Okay, then on my Kindle, I read Wild Magic by Tamora Pierce with my friend Kelsey, and oh my word, it was so glorious. There's a big Tamora Pierce gap in my life. I did not read her when I was a child. Wish I had read her when I was a teenager. I think I would have just embraced my inner Enya fantasy nature girl so bravely if I had been reading Tamora Pierce instead of trying to hide that part of myself, which I later embraced in adulthood. But like, Tamora Pierce, oh my gosh, Wild Magic was so good. I've also read Alana, the first book in the Alana series. I liked Wild Magic personally so much better. It's just for me, like animals, nature, some healing, magic, the friendships in that book, like the found family. It was just beautiful. It was a beautiful, beautiful time. So yeah, really loved reading Wild Magic. Then we get into July, and I read, oh, my bookmark is still in here. I read Rewitched by Lucy Wood. This definitely happened when I was starting to really reach the end of my wits with summer. And I was like, whatever, we're just gonna pretend that it's October, and I just want like a fun autumnal cozy book. And that is absolutely what this was. I had a lovely time reading this. It was funny. It has a wonderful like British coziness about it. A lot of like humor that I think millennial or zillennial women can relate to. I did have a couple of issues with it. There are spells in this book which utilize some older English words, including like thou and thine, and I felt like several times those were not used correctly, which just in editor brain like really bothered me. And then there was just, you know, this is a cozy book. It's cozy fantasy. So I felt like there were a few things that were just kind of hastily brought together or wrapped up or explained. But I mean, it delivered what I was looking for, which was coziness, which was escape and humor and like autumnal vibes. So I definitely enjoyed it for all of those things. And I have another Lucy Wood somewhere on my shelves. I think it's Uncharmed. So those are gonna be like just light comfort books for me when I just need something easy, and that is certainly it did its job. And then also in July, so now we're getting into the Jane Austen July reads, and I read Sense and Sensibility. I'm not going to dwell on this because I already talked about it in my Jane Austen July wrap up. Loved it, had a great time. And then also on my Kindle, I read Austenland by Shannon Hale, which I also loved and had a great time with. But again, I'm not gonna like talk about it in this video because I already have. And then finally, we're at the end now of my summer reading up to the current moment. I just finished reading A Morbid Taste for Bones, which is the first book in the Brother Cadfael mystery series by Ellis Peters. I hope I'm getting that right. I am very much in a like medieval / convents / monasteries mood right now. It kind of came out of nowhere this summer, and I don't know how long it's going to last, but it's here. And I'm just really feeling drawn towards books like that at the moment. So Brother Cadfael absolutely did the trick. I loved A Morbid Taste for Bones even more than I thought I was going to. Loved Brother Cadfael, thought he was great. Just so refreshing, and he's so observant of people. He's also lived a lot of life, like outside of the convent, which was really cool. And something that I also loved about this book is that there were 2 like side plot love stories in this that I was so invested in. I was just like, I need it to work out for these people. I need them to be okay. And I was so just pleased with how those were like woven into the mystery. And I just loved it. I just had a great time. I loved being in Wales. I just was hooked. I had to know what happened, and I had a great time. Has anybody watched the TV show Cadfael? I've heard from a couple of people that it's good. The issue is I feel like if I let myself watch that show, I will be significantly less motivated to read the books. And I want to read at least a few of the books before I watch the show. However, I have found like the specific episode in that show that is A Morbid Taste for Bones. So I kind of think I might watch that as like a little treat for finishing that book. But then I'll just wait until I've read more books in the series to read or to watch any more episodes of the show. So anyway, that's my stack of summer reading thus far. It has been a good summer of reading. Please let me know any highlights from what you've been reading this summer. Are you coping with the heat? That's a really loud motorcycle, sorry. Are you coping with the heat? Are you ready for it to be fall? Or are you vibing and enjoying the remainder of summer? It's like 100 degrees outside here every day for the next like 5 days or something, and I'm just pretending it's not happening. So I'm gonna go back to pretending now, and I actually need to go pick up my groceries from Walmart. So I'm gonna go do that. But I wish you a lovely weekend of reading. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.